We start with my greeting. Good early morning to our friends in North and South America. Good afternoon to our friends in the UK and Europe. Good early evening to our friend in Dubai, our friends in India. Good evening to our friends in Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand. Good late evening to our friends in Australia. Nice to see you all. I don't know if you heard that little noise in the background. Ching, 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 ching. That's a little Thai lizard, if ever you're wondering what that, one of the residents in the Abbot's Kuti. First question, JC.
Question 1. Dear Ajahn, I have been learning quite a lot from various online spiritual teachings. They have helped me in finding calm in this time of uncertainty. My question is it necessary to follow only one teacher to practice? I recognize I pick and choose teachings that help me. As I have a desire to cultivate genuine peace of mind through meditation, so is it better to stick with only one spiritual teacher? Please share your thoughts in this matter. Thank you.
I do believe it's okay to have a few teachers, but I wouldn't recommend having a lot of teachers. And so in choosing your few teachers, because obviously different practitioners will have a different strength, a different focus, and you might find it helpful to get different things from different teachers. But I can see that in the short term, having a lot of teachers is helpful, because you can pick and choose to kind of whatever you're feeling, and you want to quick pick me up. You might listen to that monk or nun or lay teacher that will make you feel better, or kind of intellectually engage you, titillate you intellectually, or even entertain you spiritually. And it's okay in the short term. But in the longer term, if you have a lot of teachers, when you're really trying to deepen your practice and your insight, the likelihood of experiencing some significant confusion is, I would say, quite high. One way to kind of get a sense for this is, the way I see it, different teachers are at different points on a mountain. Imagine the top of a mountain is illumination, enlightenment, liberation. And each spiritual teacher is somewhere up that mountain. And they're looking down and they're telling people how they got where they got and what they'd recommend. But the problem is, because they're all on different parts of a mountain, because in a way, every single person comes from a different universe. What do I mean by that? Meaning, depending on whatever your most recent 10,000 lives were, that created quite strong character traits. And so each teacher will have their latent tendency, their personality type, their strength and their weakness, what they can see clearly, and other things they won't be able to see. But if we're listening to all these different teachers who are on different parts of a big mountain, they'll all be saying, the next step you need to take is this one, and the next step you need to take, and it will be different steps. It's just as an analogy. So what I would say in saying that it's okay to have a few teachers, so it's like, if you resonate with my teachings, for example, then I would say that listening to Ajahn Kalyano and Tan Ajahn Anan, Ajahn Kalyano, Ajahn Anan, and Ajahn Achalo would be three monks for whom I would assume the teachings are quite similar and complementary. And but if you listen sometimes to a Dzogchen master, and sometimes to somebody teaching Chan in Taiwan, and sometimes to a Theravadan, when you really start to knuckle down on your practice and try to develop genuine insight and samadhi, you're likely to experience some confusion, because these different traditions grew up over 1,000 or so years in different locations with different people with different character types. So yes, it's okay to have a few teachers. And another thing we need to learn what I really want to say, because it's really important, if you want to know what's going to help you progress the most spiritually, is taking those few practices that you have and doing them a lot until you've mastered them. And people often have a instant gratification, not much patience. You do something for a while, it's not working, it's getting boring. Then you want something more interesting, more entertaining, more intellectually engaging. But the thing is, when you come up against boredom, you actually have to go past that. You have to have insights into it. Because what is it? It's a sense of self which is bored. If you don't have a strong sense of self, you're not going to be bored. So when there's a strong sense of I'm bored, well, that's when we do our investigation. Okay, who is this guy that's bored? Where is he? Is he in the hair? Is he in the teeth? Is he in the intestines? Is he in the heart? Is he in the blood? Where is it? And this is the time when you pick up your Gamatana, try to find that guy that's bored. And when you see that he's not there, you can have an insight into not self. But if oh, this is boring, I'm going to go and listen to Ajahn Amaro instead. Oh, I've heard that story before. Now I'm going to go and listen to Ajahn Biradhammo. And you just entertain yourself with other people's sanya, then you're not going to have that insight into not self. So we have to meditate with boredom, meditate with restlessness. We have to commit to a few simple practices and master them. And that's ultimately, I believe, what will liberate you. Being determined, being consistent. And Lord Buddha says, his teachings are not for people who delight in diversity. His teachings are for people who delight in non-diversity. So, but as I said, you can have a few teachers that you find complementary, of course, but I would not recommend many. So, middle way.
Thank you, Prajan. Prajan, question 2. Hi, Ajahn. Can one gain true wisdom without a deeply concentrated mind? Is wisdom like know things as they are, not needing another to verify or tell us if it is right? Thank you.
So yes, I covered that in the introduction to some degree. To develop penetrative wisdom, what they would call vipassana jnana, one does need the upajjhara samadhi, a significantly concentrated mind that's experiencing 10, 15, 20 minutes of peacefulness without much discursive thought, palpable sense of cool, calm, some collectedness. The 5 hindrances might still be there, but they'll be subtle, very subtle. And if one combines that with wise contemplation or investigation, one can experience vipassana jnana. Or if one simply applies that to noticing cessation, arising and ceasing, ceasing, especially cessation of each in-breath, cessation of each out-breath, changing and cessation of feelings, applying this significantly peaceful mind to noticing that, investigating that, then vipassana jnana insights can occur. And yes, one knows for oneself that one has experienced a deeper level of reality because there will be an incredible sense of peace and clarity in the experience. And so when there's much more clarity, much more peace in the experience, then you really know, you really have the experience and you really experience it. You tend to know what you were doing before you had the experience, and you tend to be able to recollect the experience. So yes, you know for yourself, and that's what Buddha says that in the chanting. The Dhamma is to be experienced individually by the wise. There's a little danger, of course, in overestimation. So sometimes it can be helpful to check with a teacher who's genuinely very well developed. Because obviously it's harder in, I'm lucky living in Thailand, we do have great masters that we can visit and people can tell you. But sometimes people will have a vipassana jnana and they think it's stream entry. So it's because one will have an insight into not self. We'll see that very clearly. One might have an experience or a glimpse of Nibbana. After that, one doesn't doubt the Buddha's teachings, and one knows what one was doing when one had the experience. But if it's not stream entry, the thing about Vipassana Jnana is it doesn't change the mind irrevocably, and it can degenerate. So delusion kind of grows back in the mind. We have to keep, if we feed the delusion, it grows back. So we have to keep re-experiencing that insight till it goes deeper. But yes, with Upajjhara Samadhi, one can experience true wisdom. And by repeating that insight, notice what you were doing when you had the insight, keep doing it, deepen it. Then, yes, a very deep level of mind liberating, universe exploding wisdom can occur. And one knows that for oneself, yes.
Thank you, Prajan. Prajan, question 3. Dear Ajahn, thank you for your compassion. Why do people develop certain feelings for specific people, be it positive, negative, etc.? Present life conditions could be a cause, but if it is conditioned from past life, how does this get evoked, since the majority of us cannot remember our past lives, let alone recognize them, since we took birth in new bodies? Is it Citta that recognizes the beings we associated from past life? Sadhu.
So I think we've all had this experience, haven't we, where you meet somebody, you've just met them and you like them. And sometimes you can like them very deeply. Other times you might meet somebody and for no particular reason, there's just some feeling in you, I just don't trust that person. So we all have this experience. So the human mind is an amazing thing. And intuition, or an intuitive sense of things, is very real. I mean, most people experience it. You might just have a feeling, don't go out today, or you're going to go somewhere. No, you just have a deep feeling, I don't want to go. For some reason, I just don't want to go. And we all experience that. So obviously on a non-verbal level of mind, non-conceptual, non-verbal, deeper level of consciousness, awareness is functioning and processing all sorts of information. And yes, if you tend to like people quickly and trust them, and you've probably been in a relationship in the past that was mutually beneficial and enjoyable for the most part. And similarly, if you really don't trust somebody and really feel irritated when you see somebody, without a reason you can pinpoint, possibly they harmed you in a past life. So this is normal. We've had many lives, and yeah. So yes, the mind picks things up on a non-verbal level, I think, all the time. And I think there's one guy in America who does what he calls data mining of social media to predict the future, because he purports that human beings are psychic, but they don't know it. That the future is already reflected in people's emails and Facebooks and Twitters. And he successfully predicted a whole bunch of things, 6 weeks, 2 months, many months, from data mining ordinary people's social media. So on an intuitive level, many of us have some kind of sense of what's around the corner. And think things like karma, the karmas that are about to ripen. We might have some kind of sense. People have dreams, don't they? Premonitions. So yes, I think so. Past life connections. This is why when we meditate, when we do spiritual practices, we dedicate merit to all beings karmically connected. And we ask forgiveness of any beings we've harmed, and we dedicate merit to our guardian devas as well, because the samsaric situation is complex, and we want the devas to protect us, and we want our karmic enemies to forgive us. So produce as much merit as you can and share it wisely.
Project question number 4. Dear Ajahn, thank you for your compassion. For chief disciples to be foremost in a given area, they have made aspirations and accumulated paramis or merits. Is it through strong aspirations that the accumulated paramis and merits get channeled to the spirit aspired to area? What is the cause of paramis or merit to culminate in having been developed in a very specific direction, lifetimes after lifetimes? Example, foremost in the retentive memory. Especially given that what we want keeps changing. For example, perhaps this lifetime, we are very resolved in achieving one thing, and in the next lifetime, switch to being resolved in another area. How does one cultivate a fixed, resolute resolve for a certain goal? Thank you.
Yeah, so good question. It will give us a sense for what I would call samsaric perspective and how long samsara is. So anybody who became foremost in anything among the Buddha's disciples, so they were foremost in wisdom, foremost in samadhi, both in bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, and there was the foremost lay devotee, lay man, the foremost lay devotee and patron, lay woman. And when you read one book, I recommend that everybody reads, very informative and very entertaining, and very insightful, is The Great Disciples of the Buddha, because it gives the background story or the origin story of the particular. So for with Sariputra and Mahamoggallana, they actually witnessed chief disciples of a previous Buddha and was so inspired that then they aspired to be like them. But then we need to understand that how much merit do you need to have that you're in a situation when you're observing the chief disciples of a Buddha? So we can deduce from that there was a lot of merit produced beforehand. So in the beginning of spiritual aspirations, it's going to be kind of wishy-washy and all mixed up. And I've said this before, particularly among, I think, Malaysian and Singaporean people, which is a large part of my audience here, is probably a Theravadan lifetime, one life, a Mahayana life, another life, a Confucian Taoist life, another life, a Vajrayana life, another life, sometimes aspiring to be an Arahant, sometimes aspiring to be a great disciple, sometimes aspiring to be immortal Taoist, sometimes aspiring to be a Buddha, and it gets all kind of mixed up. But it is, in each of those lives, obviously a certain amount of virtue and a certain amount of familiarity is becoming accumulated. And then I think just over time, over a period of many lifetimes, it gets clearer what one deeply resonates with, that inspires one and touches one most, what one's particular gift or strength may be, and that aspiration to want to truly cultivate something to a very profound level so as to be able to benefit a lot of beings in a particular way. So it just becomes clearer over a period of lifetimes. But it is, as this person noticed, one lifetime we keep changing our minds. One lifetime we might want to be this, another lifetime we might want to be that. And even one very interesting story which gives insight into the nature of samsara is that Mahamoggallana, foremost in psychic powers, equal to Lord Buddha in psychic powers, a few lifetimes before being Mahamoggallana was Mara, the evil one. And that's very interesting. And how is that possible? who understand it. He wants power. And he's been accumulating power, spiritual might, very powerful mind. And in one life, he makes a mistake. I'm going to go for the power of darkness, dark power, CEO of Kilesa Incorporated. And then after that, he had to go to Avicii hell for a very, very long time. So this is the chief disciple of the Buddha. So I would assume after he's already received his prediction that he will definitely, sometimes in the process of perfecting something, you need to make some mistakes. And you go, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to do that again. Avicii hell is real, and it's a really long time, and it's really painful down there. The reason we know this is because Mara was bothering Mahamoggallana, and Mahamoggallana said to Mara, don't do this. Don't cause a problem for the chief disciple of a Buddha. I was a Mara in the past life, and I caused a problem for a chief disciple of the Buddha. And because of that, I spent a long, long, long time in hell. So don't do this. So yes. But the way it works is, if you do want to refine a very specific aspiration, you make your mind as peaceful as you can, or as joyful as you can. So suppose you make some significant offering, your mind is feeling elated and happy with joy. And then at that time you dedicate the merit. Due to this merit, may I be an arahant as quickly as possible. May I be an arahant with analytical knowledges, with the miracle of teaching people according to their abilities. Or may I be a great disciple. May I be a Buddha, whatever it is. You make as generous an offering as you can. And then while you're feeling that joy, when the merit is filling the heart, I dedicate the merit of this to this particular outcome. Similarly, when you're meditating, after you make your mind as peaceful, collected, radiant as you can, coming out of that meditation, once again, I dedicate the merit of this to whatever the goal is. And that gets momentum after one lifetime, after several lifetimes. And of course, if you've made deep imprints, when you pick up the practice again in another life, that inclination will arise again, and you will deepen it again and again. So, but yes, it takes a good number of lives, though, to get really established on a clear path of cultivating particular qualities or outcomes. We can try to cover a broad base in this life. Develop mindfulness, develop wisdom, develop generosity, develop metta, and you're going in the right direction.
Question 5. Ajahn, I have noticed my recent meditation seems to be more stable. I can sit longer, which is a good development. There are more peaceful moments, and I observe that there's a little less of the unwholesome phenomenon, especially idle thoughts occupying the mind. With some determination and focus, I consciously watch the thoughts that arise with mindfulness, staying there just watching and observe that they become less aggressive and have less energy. Sometimes the thoughts seems to be laying low and seem more subtle. There is a good feeling when the mind is tuning to a more peaceful state, like the thoughts dissolve until the next thing comes up. It's like a movement towards zero. The mind slows down, but then soon it goes back and forth, and the zero seems far off. But sometimes it's just right there. It's a bit like watching an ice cube melt. The water is still there, but it's not solid. Knowing the movement is very fluid, it is not completely peaceful, but there is contentment with peacefulness around the fleeting thoughts. So my question is my practice is moving in the right direction? Is this awareness of the present moment? I sometimes doubt my experience, wondering that it may be just memories of what we heard from others, and I may be mistaking them to be my true experience. Secondly, how do I progress from here? Thank you.
So, if I've understood correctly, what this person is describing is a sense of there being some thought activity and also some peacefulness and contentment. And that compared to before, there is much less thinking and more detachment. And I'm assuming when they're saying it's like coming to zero, it's like, yeah, a sense of emptiness or nothingness, not much obvious hindrances present. So that sounds to me like a wholesome progression, that the level of peace is getting more powerful, more present. And then, yes, applying that peacefulness to knowing a thought as a thought and watching it kind of dissolve. And so probably this person is beginning to experience Upajjhara Samadhi and possibly going from the course to the intermediate Upajjhara. So understanding that Upajjhara is as 20 minutes of peacefulness with some feeling of coolness and calmness, some thought activity, mostly wholesome, nothing too unwholesome. And then some periods where there's hardly any thoughts at all, nice, spacious moments where there's some stillness, just the occasional thought. And that's the way it is. It's like, as peacefulness deepens, as we train in cultivating peacefulness, that's the way it works. It's like, yeah, you have a certain amount of peacefulness with some thoughts, but some sense of separation. And then that peacefulness deepens and there's even less thoughts. And then the mind moves from that peace and it comes out to a slightly more distracted state again. Sometimes we can go from the coarse Upajjhara to the intermediate Upajjhara and back to a bit coarse again and then back to intermediate again. And so it sounds like it is a wholesome development, more peace, more contentment, more recognizing a thought as a thought, not getting absorbed into it, and sometimes some stillness. And so yes, practice is deepening, and the way to deepen it further is to just keep doing it. It's, the practices that you're doing have brought this level of wholesome development. So if you continue with them, then it should continue in that way. And probably the way it continues is what this practitioner is describing as zero, less hindrances, deeper period of peace with hardly any thoughts at all. There should be more of that. And so please continue as you are. Sounds like it's going in a good direction.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Something nice happened in my life recently. Shall I show you?
Of course, please.
Do you know, some of you may have the experience when somebody orders something for you on the internet and it never looks as nice as the picture. Did anyone else have that experience? So the nice thing that happened in my life recently was that somebody asked me what happened was I lost one of my favorite malas. First time in 25 years that I've lost a set of prayer beads. And I don't know where it went. And so some nice students of mine said, Ajahn, please try to locate something similar and we'll order it for you. And so Cliff and Linda, when I found a supplier of Baltic amber in Kaliningrad, I wasn't sure it was going to be very nice because the price was very reasonable compared to, and so anyway, so the good news is Ajahn Acho now has his Baltic amber wrist mala in the color that he wanted, slightly nicer than the previous one, and it looked just like it looked in the picture. Isn't that nice? Anyway, it's always nice when something nice happens in samsara, so I thought I'd share that with you.
Do you leave a good review for the website, Ajahn?
I don't know if I could leave reviews or not. Yeah, should do. Very nice lady. If anyone else wants a a Baltic amber mala. So anyway, Cliff and Linda bought nice malas for themselves and one for a friend, and they looked at the total price and they said they were so impressed with the price. They said to me, Ajahn, please get one more. And so I looked at one for walking meditation. Would anyone else like to see Ajah's new walking meditation, Baltic amber mala? Please don't let me bore you. But if you'd like to see it, please nod your head. Okay. It's very nice. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? That's honey-colored Baltic amber in 9 millimeters for 1/5 of the price that I would have to pay from my good friend in Bagaya. So anyway, I can give you the link, JC and Joyce, if anybody else feels that they need a Baltic amber mala for their spiritual practice. I now know a place where you can order it at a very reasonable price, and it seems to be the real thing. And if it supports your practice, then I say, go for it. Nice to see you all.
Nice to see you
Thank you
too.
so much.
Thank you, Ajahn.
See you, Ajahn.
Bye.
Enjoy your new mala.
Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Masadam.
Bye, Ajahn. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
I'm glad Malaysia's opening up a bit more.
No children today.